folks, Roland Martin here. Listen, today is a very special day. Well, first of all, it's Memorial Day, and that's special in that respect. I'm former military, and I really respect the ultimate sacrifice so many of our armed forces have given us to enjoy our great freedoms and our great fishing as well. But it's also another great day. It's a great day because today is the day I introduce the Memorial Day, the new favorite rod series, the new Pro Rod series. I've been talking about it all year. I don't know how many different videos I've done, my YouTube videos where I talk about the new rods that we're now designing, and I had an instrument in designing. This is the new Pro series. We got 5 of the rods coming out right now. I'm going to show you the applications of them, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how they came about. Well, first of all, Winston Tucker runs Favorite Rods, and Winston Tucker got us together, about 10 of us top pros, my son, Scott Martin, Andy Morgan, guys like, Brian Latimer, all sorts of different guys. About 10 of us sat down. We all wrote down on pieces of paper. We went just before Christmas a year and a half ago. We all wrote down what we wanted to see in a Pro Rod series. Well, the first thing we wanted to see was the right name. Well, we all came to an agreement. We'd call it the Pro Series. That's easy enough. Pros develop a Pro Series, okay? The second thing we all decided upon was let's do away with micro guides. Micro guides are something we don't really want to fool with anymore because you can't cast a leader through a micro guide. Micro guides are too small. So we went to a fairly small guide, but at least to cast the leader. And so it's not a micro guide. The third thing we all decided to do was we need a dynamite, heavy-duty power rod for flipping. I mean, a really solid flipping rod. So let's first of all design a really great flipping stick. Okay, this is it. This is it. Man, I'm so proud of this. We got together and we all put our numbers down and what we thought we needed to have. This particular flipping stick is a 7.5 foot, and it's 15 to 20 pound line. It's heavy. This is a 7.5 foot heavy action, fast action tip. Now another thing that I like to do, we argued I wanted a little bit longer handle, but I can accommodate that by taking this cushion thing and I'll put this on the handle. That makes it a little bit longer, but it also, I like the little bit longer handle. But anyway, that's what we decided to have. So I can put the cushion on there. Now, this happens to be a 65 pound braid. Now with this particular rod, let me just show you this rod real quick. This is the big jig that I have, and I can't get it out of my rod. Here we go. This is the big 1/2 ounce jig. And I've used it so much on Lake Okeechobee and all these places. I'll hook it up with a creature bait, say from Yamamoto, that new, either the Cowboy series or the Psycho Dad. Come through that jig, and boy, you're talking about a flipping deal. Now, along with this same rod, that's a great thing to flip with. We can now also use a crawl worm, a big heavy crawl worm with those heavy weights. And if we want to punch the grass, we can take this big rod and punch the grass. But in addition to that, hey, you've seen me fishing this big whopper plopper. What a neat deal. I love this big whopper plopper. I can take it on this big flipping stick, throw it a country mile, and catch big fish on a whopper plopper. So that's just a couple of things I do with this big flipping stick. Okay, that's one rod. And we all came to an agreement. We needed a heavy-duty flipping stick like the best there is, and we got it. It's the hero. Okay, right there. Okay, that's the first rod. Okay, the second rod is, what is the #1 lure in the United States? What's the number one way of catching a bass? Well, I'm going to show you real quick. We got the rod for it too, son, and the reel. This is nothing but a Yamamoto Senko, #1 lure ever in the whole world. It happens to be a 5-inch 297 green pumpkin. I got it set up with a 17 pound fluorocarbon leader. I told you I don't like micro guides, so I can cast this leader right through the rod. I like this 50 pound braid. I go right to 50 pound braid. I got this Solace 8-to-1 reel. Now that's a 7 foot medium heavy action rod. It's my favorite rod. I love 7 foot. It is so perfect for worm fishing. It's just so sensitive. It just casts so good. And it has great sensitivity, great power. I can put that little button on there if I want. But not only is it a great worm rod, it is my favorite for a worm rod. The same exact rod You can see when I go fishing, I don't like to change lures a lot. So I'll have 5 or 6 rods on one side of the boat and 5 or 6 rods on the other side. But the same rod can be used for more than one thing. So I'll have another rod set up for, say, one of my favorites, Roland Martin Big Bass Spinnerbait. That's a great rod for that. 50-pound braid, again, is perfect. Or a buzzbait. Buzzbaits and spinnerbaits can all be used on the same rod. I can even put 17-pound line. You don't have to have braid on buzzbaits and spinnerbaits. I can go to say a monofilament on that same rod and reel. That's a Solus 8-to-1. That's my worm rod, but yet it's great for spinnerbaits and buzzbaits. And here's the other thing it's so great for. Brett Hite can tell you, this is the chatterbait. The chatterbait, you need a 7-foot rod for chatterbait, and I like this medium heavy action. 7 foot, it's my worm rod, but it makes a great chatterbait rod. Again, I'll often use it on what Brett does, he uses the chatterbait with fluorocarbon. He runs straight fluorocarbon on a rod very similar to that one. Okay, that's a 17-pound fluorocarbon. It has more action. Fluorocarbon doesn't stretch quite as much, and it's more invisible to the fish. Okay, so that same worm rod, 8-to-1 Solus reel, 17-pound line on this, and it makes a great, great, great chatterbait rod. So, okay, that's 2 rods now that we've got that really are right in line with everything we have. Okay, another lure that I use a lot, that you see me use a lot, and I really do use a lot, and that's this one here. This is a little bit stiffer rod than that worm rod. This is a 7'3" heavy action. Let's see if I can get it. This is a 7'3" fast action. This is this is heavy. This is 7'3" heavy action. Okay. There's my lure. There's the one I catch so many fish on. I caught a bass this last week, 9.39 pounds on this Yamamoto grub. Okay, it's a really, really great lure. I'm throwing it on 50-pound braid. Okay, and where I was fishing the other day in the Everglades, I had a submerged hydrilla. However, and I use a weight, and I caught a 7/0 hook, and boy, I swim that swim bait, that big hardtail grub through that hydrilla, and bam. If I'm fishing heavy lily pads right up on the surface, or if I'm fishing submerged vegetation right at the surface, I won't use a weight. I'll take the weight off. But the same rod is great for something else. Let me just show you another combination that I'll use on the same rod. Okay, that's a swim bait. This is a swim jig. That happens to be a 3/8 ounce swim jig. I have a small little swimming Senko tail on a jig, on a swim jig. It's designed to go through the grass, so that's a good deal. But here's one of my favorites right here. You see me fishing the frog. This is a great frog rod. Now, in addition to the 5 rods that I'm going to show you today, we're still working on strictly a frog rod. We're still working on some of the other things to be more specific. But for right now, this 7'3" heavy action rod is just great for swim baits, swim jigs, and frogs. And I'm taking that frog, particularly this is one of the sprinkler frogs that has the buzz tail. Boy, that thing's cool. I've caught so many good fish on that. And then the regular Spro popping frog. That's another good one. Super, super combination for this heavy action 7'3" Pro Series rod. Remember now, this is a brand new series that's just come out. We're going to expand the series a little bit, but right now we want to show you 5 rods that do just about everything you want in bass fishing. Okay, so that's the third combination. Okay, the 4th combination is, I'm a power fisherman, and you see me catching fish on big flipping sticks and all, but there's some occasions, and quite a few occasions, where I'll use a small rod. And this is quite a light action rod. This is 6.5 foot medium action rod. This is a light casting rod for a couple things. They use it on light monofilament, for example, fishing little square bills, fishing the rocks and the riprap, and fishing stuff like that. That's a perfect little Spro bait for just light tackle, say the Midwestern lakes like the Table Rock in Missouri. I can also take a jerk bait, like this is a rogue kind of a jerk bait in a couple different series and sizes, but see, anywhere from 10 to 15 pound test monofilament or fluorocarbon makes a great, great complement with this 6.5 foot medium action rod. Again, a Solus reel, 8-to-1 reel. Okay, that's a perfect combination. Then I can go to the smaller little baits, like the little rattle trap baits. Rattle trap baits are good, and I like to throw them on like a 17 pound. If I'm going to rattle trap, I'll probably go to 17 pound. Okay, 17 pound, and I can go to, say, ½ ounce rattle trap, the old Rayburn Red in the springtime. Boy, you can catch them on a Rayburn Red. I'm telling you, that's a good combination. Okay, top water. I love top water. And one thing that I'll do, like with this Devil's Horse, is that I'll take, and you see me tie it, a Bimini twist knot. Now, what a Bimini twist does, it allows me to double up that line, and it gets real thick and heavy, and the little knot sticks out. And it keeps the line from getting in that front propeller. When I had the Bimini twist tied, it's just all sitting out straight, and it doesn't tangle up. But anyway, I can use 14, 17, even 20 pound test monofilament. Now, on top water, don't use fluorocarbon for a simple reason. Fluorocarbon sinks. And if you put the fluorocarbon on there, and if you fish in this plug slow, the fluorocarbon will sink like this. Sink down the water, and when you pull it, the lure will go actually under the water. If you fish in a slow retrieve, it dives down. But if you use monofilament, same pound test, say 14 to 20 pound test monofilament, it more or less is neutral buoyant, and the plug doesn't dive down and sink when you pull it. It just kind of stays level and thing. Okay, so another thing that I always do on all these rods is I like braid. And so you can take a 50 pound braid, for example, or that's a 10 pound braid. You can take a 50 pound braid, for example, and put on any of these rods and use it for a combination of things, but then by adding a leader, just a light leader, like here's a 17 pound leader, I can use a 10 pound leader, I can use any number of leaders, and now go to almost an ultralight situation. You still have a base of a 50 pound braid. It gives me a lot of sensitivity and gives me a castability as well. But then by going to that 10 or 12 pound fluorocarbon leader, I can fish little stuff. I can fish little small plugs and little small baits. Okay, so that's that combination. Now, you know, again, I'm a power fisherman. So there's one other thing that Winston Tucker did when we got all together a year and a half ago, and we started designing and talking about what features we wanted in a rod series. He says, Roland, he asked me personally, he says, if you had just one spinning rod in your complement, I use spinning tackle. I use it for a couple things. I skip boat docks with the spinning rod. I use it on the wacky rig with the spinning rod. I do the little drop shot out in deep water with the spinning rod. So there's a lot of application, and I can fish ultralight. I can fish finesse stuff. So anyway, he said, okay, well, let's get one rod here, if I can get it. And let's have a spinning rod now that's gonna do a little bit of everything. If you only had one spinning rod, what would it be? Well, we're gonna come out with more spinning rods. Yeah, we're gonna have a whole series of spinning rods. But for right now, if I had just one spinning rod, what would it be? Well, this happens to be, let me read it, it's the Pro Series rod. Okay, this happens to be Pro Series 7.3. It's lane 7.3. It is 1/4 ounce to 3/4 ounce line. It's kind of a fast action tip. It's kind of a medium heavy 7.3 rod, a medium heavy. Now with the medium heavy rod, again I'm using it on a favorite rod, a favorite reel. I'm using 20 pound braid. Now here's the deal: 20 pound braid casts a lot better than even 10 pound mono. And it gives me the sensitivity and the long distance casting ability. I've demonstrated that on many occasions. I can take a spinning rod with light braid and cast farther than you can cast with either fluorocarbon or monofilament. So I like to use the spinning reel with the braid base. Now I can come out to the end of the rod where I have the lure. In this case, I'm going to do a kind of a finesse thing. I'm going to do the wacky rig, the old wacky rig. I hook it right in the middle. I use this little tool, and I come right down the center of that worm. Again, any worm will work as long as it's 297 green pumpkin. Not quite. There's a lot of worms that'll work. 4-inch worms will work. This happens to be a 5-inch Senko. This happens to be a green pumpkin. But I've tied it now to like 10 or 12 pound fluorocarbon. Again, by using that 20 pound braid base, I can cast it a long ways, have great sensitivity, have a great ability to set the hook, And I can make it as light as I want. I can put a leader as long as I want. I use a uni knot, a double uni. Now I know that the FG knot's good, and I'll show the difference between FG knots and uni knots. But uni knots are quick and easy to tie, and they're 90-something%. Okay, so that's my compliment there. But at the same time, like I said, I can use a drop shot, and I can use just any number of small little spinning lures on this particular rod. 7'3", medium heavy action spinning rod. But you know, skipping is great. This little worm right here just skips like a tramp. I can go underneath the boat dock with it, just skip it along. It's just a perfect little compliment. Oh, I got hooked to the shit. I'm hooked to the thing. Anyway, I can't get it. I'm hooked to the carpet. I'll have to go get it later. Anyway, folks, that's what's happening right now. We've introduced these 5 rods. Favorite now to get these rods is you know, Bass Pro Shop is my biggest advertiser, and Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's, of course, have a big deal with the favorite rods as well. So if they don't have the particular rods you want, go in and keep asking for it, because there's nothing better than consumer requests. When consumer requests come in, hey, they react to it. So these rods will be available soon. Now you can go to any of the big stores. And I don't want to mention other stores, that's just not necessary, but any of the big tackle stores have these rods. But Favorite also sells online. They do a tremendous business online. Their whole base started 2 and 3 years ago, working with the Guggen boys and all those kind of things. And they did almost all their business online for the first couple of years, and they still do. So just Google FavoriteUSA.com. Hey, you can order all these rods online at a good price. Okay, well, anyway, I post this as a special post. It's a Monday post, Memorial Day post. It introduces the rod series, or the Pro Rod series, that I'm so proud to be involved with for Favorite Rods. So, okay, folks, well, thanks for watching. Hey, I enjoy doing these videos. We'll see you again soon.